Kathy, you recognise that building behind me, of course, but so much else about the city is unrecognisable. The square where I'm standing, the Trocadero, should be absolutely jam-packed with people at the beginning of the spring in what should be the tourist season here in Paris. But there's a nighttime curfew in place, and the only reason why we are not going to get arrested or fined is because we're journalists and we have a stack of special papers giving us an exemption. Now, I've been travelling all over Europe in the last few days. I was in Germany last week, and everywhere you go, there's a fear of that third wave, much more imminent here than in the UK. There are the same debates going on about lockdowns, when to end them, how to revive the economy. There's that same sort of scrutiny of infection rates. The big difference between Britain and France and Germany and Italy is, of course, vaccines. And here in France, as we found out, they've had some very particular issues. Paris in early spring, and the only people roaming the Trocadero in front of the Eiffel Tower are a ghostly squad of gendarmes looking for people breaking the curfew that starts every evening at 6. The streets in the City of Light are dark and deserted, and even at rush hour, the roundabout encircling the Arc de Triomphe is not its usual self. This is all necessary because France has had a bad COVID winter, is expecting a bad spring, because the ICUs are full of COVID patients, and because Dr. Kauta's fridge is empty. Fridge is empty for AstraZeneca?
Yeah. Okay. Oh. Yeah, this one is AstraZeneca.
That's the last one?
That's the last one for today. I'm waiting next one on Wednesday. For the time being, I am allowed only 30 vaccines per week. I think they are not available.
Monsieur Ivanel wants to record the moment of history on his smartphone. He's also very lucky. After we left, some bad news. Dr. Kauta won't get next week's 30 vaccines, for which he's already booked her patients. Paris has been transformed by COVID. Cafes, bars and restaurants are closed, but testing tents have sprung up on pavements. Tourists are missing. Conversation is dominated by lockdowns, infection rates, and what the government's critics are calling la honte et le chaos, the national shame and chaos now of the vaccine rollout. Here at the National Assembly, the debate is about why France has only vaccinated around 6% of the adult population compared to Britain's 33%. It is a problem of supply and demand, and we discussed it on an elegant sofa made for social distancing with the deputy from the President's party, who happens to be a pandemic expert. Are you not afraid that all those things, the numbers of infections, the fear of the third wave, and the fact that there's a curfew in the city, in Paris, could have been avoided if you had been quicker on the vaccination program?
Of course. But we had no doses. We didn't have the vaccine. If the vaccine had been somewhere in a cabinet, in a refrigerator, it would have been a shame. But we had no doses available. So what could we do else than what we have done?
But if France had gone alone and not been part of the European Union program, do you think that you would be now in a better position to have more vaccine and to be able to vaccinate more people?
What would have happened if we had been alone? It would have been a fight between each of the European countries. Some of them saying initially, I don't want any vaccine. Some of them wanting to have them all for themselves.
After the row over the missing AstraZeneca doses erupted, President Macron weighed in by saying that the vaccine was quasi-ineffective for over 65-year-olds on the very same day that the European Medical Agency gave it the green light.
I really guess here that he made a mistake. I know that he reads every data, every study, scientific study, but this time maybe there was something, it was a misstep. He said something that was not true, but now we know, we have the data saying that yes, we can have a very good efficiency with the AstraZeneca over 65 years of age.
Optimism is trying to make a comeback here. Last week, France changed the policy on AstraZeneca, but vaccine hesitancy persists, even amongst hospital staff. We met William, an ICU COVID nurse, on his way to work.
When I hear my president say that AstraZeneca is not effective, it's really confusing.
For the over 65-year-olds?
Yeah, it's more confusing when 1 month later they say, oh, we're gonna use AstraZeneca, it's okay. So it's really, we don't have a real trust between the government and the paramedics and the nurse.
But by you refusing to take AstraZeneca at the moment, aren't you also adding to the confusion?
I'm not opposed to vaccine. I'm for to be vaccinated, but I want to choose what vaccine I have to get. I don't want the government to choose for me.
Outside, reassuring glimpses of normality, and inside, perhaps the most decorative vaccine centre in Paris, the town hall in the Marais. In France, the municipalities organised the rollout, and here Mayor Ariel Weil is in charge, a 47-year-old socialist who studied at Harvard Business School.
Even when we compare to other countries in the EU, we're not that good. I think there will be, at some point, a need for all of us to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, well, what could have we done better? Yeah. How did we get wrong? We didn't have tests in the first place. Then we didn't have masks. Then we didn't have vaccines.
Je pique, madame.
For now, citizens here and everywhere are focused on the personal fight for survival, the desperate return to normality. Today it's the vaccine, tomorrow the economy. And then, when the traffic returns on the Champs-Élysées, comes the political reckoning. President Macron faces an election next spring. He'll be judged on his COVID record. The Eiffel Tower will still be here. But what about him?